Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the SKNIS Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards. Welcome to InFocus, a weekly program where we zoom in on what's happening within and throughout the government, your government. Kervin Benjamin, popularly known by his stage name InFocus, is one of two musical ambassadors in St. Kitts and Nevis attached to the Ministry of Creative Economy and Sports. InFocus represents as a popular song from his earlier years as a performer that has manifested into today's reality. Since being appointed in November 2022, how has Mr. Benjamin represented in advancing the local music industry and the burgeoning orange economy here in St. Kitts and Nevis? And what are his thoughts on the recently announced links between music and organized crime? We'll find out as Kervin InFocus Benjamin is our special guest on today's edition of InFocus. Stay with us as we delve into your government, your business. Thanks for staying with us, and allow me now to welcome His Excellency, Kervin InFocus Benjamin. Sir, welcome to you.
It's a pleasure being here.
Right. Okay, so of course everyone knows InFocus in terms of the music, and I have to ask you, I don't know, how did I do when InFocus represent? Was it okay?
That was good, that was good.
Okay.
So InFocus represent!
Right, unfortunately I'm not quite as melodious as you. Right. But the question would be, when did you realize that you had a musical talent?
From a very early age, I would say at 6, I was a part of the Seventh-day Adventist church choir, and me and my brother, actually, I have a twin brother, we were known by K Squared, right? And we used to go back and forth, who is the better singer, and that type of stuff. And that is when I realized that music was a part of me.
So you had a group then, a duo?
So we had a duo, and we were part of the church choir. Okay. And Ambassador Larry Vaughan as well was a part of the Seventh Adventist Church in Kean. I think he still is. I am not, but that is where I got all my teaching in the early stages.
Right. Okay, and so you honed your skills there. Tell me, what after you left the church, where did it branch off to?
Well, it branched off to, I don't know if you would remember a young man by the name of Shakal from Kean. Right. He was the one who really helped me when it came to writing and performance and performing, performing the art. So he was the one who really helped me during that period after the church. Yeah, so that is where it ended up for now.
Was that a difficult transition, learning how to write music?
It was not necessarily difficult because I come from a decent bloodline of writers, Uncle Bonnell Watley, Uncle Big Lice, and well, just those two for now, and Uncle Jomo. Yeah, so it was not a difficult transition. It happened seamlessly. Yeah.
What goes into writing a good song?
That is a good question, and a lot of feelings, emotions, and making sure that you understand what people want to hear as well. So that is I think the three main components: feelings, emotions, and making sure that you understand what people want to hear.
I think one of the arguments that persons make is that the more critical songs is ones that really touches people.
Right.
It's something that really somebody goes through. You know, if you lose a brother, I think 21 Gun Salute.
21 Gun Salute, yeah.
You're familiar with. Talk to us a bit about that emotion that you put into that song.
Well, emotion. Well,
really
you know,
motivated
as a community in Keyan and the Green Valley community, and you could say St. Kitts, we were losing a lot of friends, brothers, uncles, and people who died of natural causes as well. But at the time, it was more emotional because it was more gun violence. You know, so a lot of that was poured into 21 Gun Salute. You know, and you know that was my very first song. That was my very first release, and I would say my breakout song.
What year was that?
That was 2009.
Okay. And how would you say that your style has evolved since then?
I would say that my style has evolved into what we are seeing now. And me personally, I am more on the reggae side these days. Yeah, so I moved from that type of secular music to the reggae music.
Why reggae?
Reggae because reggae was the first thing that I honestly listened to before I started my journey. So the transition back to it was because reggae is a conscious type of music, and we need that here right now in this very moment.
Do you write music for others or just for
I
yourself?
have not written a song for anyone. To be very honest with you, I've only written for myself. I am going to venture into that now because, you know, we have a lot of work to do with the youths. Okay.
So you write songs, you sing songs, performing on stage. How did that come about?
That, to be very honest with you, right, I myself asked the same question because I was very reserved. Up to this day, I'm still a reserved individual. And how I got on stage, is a difficult question to answer. But I was always a performing arts guy, right? I was into sports. I was into football, track and field. So it was an easy transition onto the stage. But how I got there, I can't tell you. I just know that I love it.
And of course, singing in the church as well. It sort of prepared you for performing in front of an audience.
It was an easy transition onto the stage.
So the age that you would say that you did your first performance?
It was 19.
You were 19?
19 officially.
What year was that?
That was 19, you could say 2000. My son is now 13. So you could say 2009, 2008. That was when I transitioned onto the stage.
Okay. Now, in developing your music career, what type of support did you receive from your family and your friends?
I wouldn't say 100% support because in St. Kitts, and you could say in the diaspora, entertainment and musicians are not necessarily taken seriously.
And of course, that would be St. Kitts and Nevis.
Right. So we are not necessarily taken, we weren't taken seriously back then. But the support that I got after they realized that I was serious was overwhelming, and I would say tremendous.
So you're raised by your
mother,
your mother, right? So she was on board. She was behind you because
she was.
Of course, one of the things is that in a career you want your child to be able to support themselves.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, persons, artists in St. Kitts and Nevis are not necessarily taken serious. And so the question would be then, will my son, will my daughter be able to support themselves during this venture?
Right. So it was a difficult thing, I think, for my mother to even fathom that you want to be an entertainer in St. Kitts, you know, at the time. But she eventually, through her support, 100% behind me because she realized that I was not going to stop.
And community members, persons in the communities?
Well, community-wise, I would say that is why I love St. Kitts bad. Because every single community in St. Kitts and Nevis supported me along the way.
Mr. Benjamin, what would you say are some of the keys that was important for you to transition your love for music into a career?
Some of the keys. Well, to be very honest with you again, I personally believe that there was a need for me to do that because I wanted to show as well some of the youngsters and people like-minded like me that it is possible as long as you are persistent, and you have to be very consistent as well. So those were some of the keys that helped me to transition into it, because I believe that I was a leader, I am a leader, and I just wanted to make sure that the people among me understand that it is possible.
And creativity, of course, is something that is necessary as well.
Right, of course. that is paramount to you being, well, to you becoming, well, you could say a superstar, or a community star, or just a national icon. So creativity is paramount.
And talk to us a bit about the first time now that you would have represented St. Kitts and Nevis overseas, in terms of your own personal music career.
Yeah, the first time I represented St. Kitts and Nevis overseas was in New York, and that was 2010.
Not even a regional New York?
Yeah, we went straight to New York. It was our own Labor Day, actually, and Massive, I don't know, well, I'm pretty sure that people would know who Massive is. Massive was the one who sent for me, and well, before that was Canada, but that was just recording sessions. Performance-wise, it was New York.
And what was the occasion? What was that like?
It was a Labor Day party type of vibe, and you know, St. Kitts people, we only come out to party and that's it.
So you performed in front of
a decent enough crowd, yeah, right.
Basically.
And you know the butterfly is going to be flying.
Right.
Yeah, so it was quite an experience, because it's a whole totally different realm when it comes to crowd and crowd reaction. So you have to prepare yourself mentally to deal with things overseas. So it was quite an experience.
Where would you say, of course, as your career continued to evolve, that you represented St. Kitts and Nevis that attracted the most persons, that attracted the most attention?
I would still go back to New York. I would go back to New York any day. Yeah, that is where we are. New York and Florida. That is where we are. So New York and Florida.
And important key lessons that you took away from those performances that has helped you grow?
Well, you got to be prepared for anything, literally. You know, so there sometimes the crowd might not know what you're bringing to the table, and they will be there watching you. So you have to know that there's a need for you to perform regardless. So even if you're not moving, there's a need for you to just execute your set.
Okay. And so, as we mentioned, you were appointed now musical ambassador to St. Kitts and Nevis for the Ministry of Creative Economy and Sports as well too. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, that was an appointment by the Prime Minister and the Honorable Samuel Duggins, and I am very humbled and happy about it, because I personally believe that my mission now is to help to build a proper infrastructure and help the government to understand entertainment in particular and how it is structured, so that they could better implement policies, right, to help us along the way. Yeah, so that is my mission, and that is why I was appointed, to help them to understand entertainment.
Entertainment, what is your experience, your background in entertainment?
But my experience in entertainment, I have worked with many managers and producers and well, managers, producers, and just, well, you could say moguls, if that's the word I'm looking for. We're talking about people who really run the business, right? So that is where I come in.
Is it just in the music industry? Because, of course, you said entertainment. That's what I was thinking.
Well, it's just music, because I'm a musical ambassador, so I'm helping them to understand the music side of it, right? And the business behind the music. Yeah, so the other aspects, which would be dancing and art and all of that, they have other people dealing with those type of stuff.
No, you mentioned an important term, and I want to touch on the business behind the music. Last week we had the registrar of the Intellectual Property Office here, And of course, copyright is an important part of the
Very much
business
so.
behind it.
Very
But I
much
wanted
so.
to talk to persons who may be aspiring artists out there who would like to get started and wonder where should they begin and how they can launch a business aspect of it, like the way you did. What would be your advice for them in terms of considering music not just as something that you would go out and perform maybe on your phone,
Right.
tape a video like that, but it must be seen as a business.
Right. But you must understand that intellectual property, right, that is yours and it is your property. So you must protect it by any means necessary. So I would ask them to revert back to the office of intellectual property and get themselves protected, right? So I would always encourage people to copyright their work because that is yours. So you copyright your work and then, you know, obviously you're going to get compensated for it on the back end. But you must protect it because anybody could go with my songs, literally, if I don't copyright them. And then there's nothing that I can do about it after the fact. So you must protect yourself. And there's no other way to say it. You just have to protect yourself. So you go to the copyright, the intellectual property office, you get yourself signed up, you ask the necessary questions, and they would obviously lead you to ECHO and BMI and all those other companies that help to protect you and collect your royalties, right? It is very simple. It is not rocket science.
And we want to have a discussion a bit later on in terms of the copyright aspect of it, but the other aspects of business, because there's recording, there is, if you're going to produce a video, finding persons who are capable of doing that. There is financing that has to be taken into account.
There's a lot of things, to be honest with you. Well, the other side, right? But the copyright is most important because after all of that, you still have to protect all of them. Because you could rest assured that the videographer already has that done. And there's one thing that I realized, that the artist is the only one who basically does laps, right? Every other aspect, I find that they take it more serious than the actual person who is in front of the camera, right? So that is something that we need to work on as artists, musicians.
So that's the mindset of understanding that music is a business for you.
Right.
Right. Okay. And in terms of financing, perhaps you can use yourself in terms of as an experience, as a template that persons can
Financing is most, I think that is the most difficult part, to be honest. 9 out of 10 times you would have to finance yourself starting out, you know, and it is unfortunate, but it is a reality, you know. And if you love yourself enough and you love what you do, then that is something that you will have to do until you get to that point where you have enough material where people could basically take you serious and say, well, let me invest. Or you could go to the bank and say, and they say that you have enough material for them to help you as well. And you could also go to Creative Economy and get a grant, even if it's just to do one song, and you never know, it might end up into a hit song. You could pay back Creative Economy.
And I imagine that is a part of your role as a music ambassador. But we're going to talk a bit more about your role and your responsibilities as a musical ambassador to the ministry. But before we do so, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be right back with more In Focus.
The word on the street, and everybody here sing out. The whole can come sweet.
Welcome back to InFocus. We continue our discussion with His Excellency Kervin Benjamin, otherwise known as Infamous by most of us, who is here discussing his responsibilities as a musical ambassador. And of course, persons looking online would have seen a video where he was performing that would have actually been in Trinidad at CARICOM. Yep. Part of your responsibility to represent St. Kitts and Nevis overseas. So talk to us a bit more about your responsibilities. Now, you discussed that, of course, you're there to help to advise the government in terms of understanding business as an entertainment, or should I say entertainment as a business. As a business, yeah. Right. But talk to us a bit more about your roles and responsibilities there. How do you get that done?
Well, you obviously know how the government is set up and how they operate as well, how we operate, and there are three. I'm not sure if this is what you're asking, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are three programs that that I am in charge of. One is a national musical workshop. Two is an ambassadorial trip that was done last year that I'm pretty sure that everyone saw. And the third one is the Elevate concert. So those three things are what I am directly involved in. So the workshop runs concurrently, and it is 6 months, 6 months.
But before you get there, so those are the three main things that you're focusing on as an ambassador. Okay, but let's just jump back a bit now in terms of when you got the call. Of course, as we established earlier, you were appointed on November 1st, 2022. When you got the call to fill the role as an ambassador, what was your reaction? What was that like for you?
It was, to be very honest, it was frightening at first because I know it was a serious call to serve, but I am always willing and ready to serve. After you get over the butterflies and the fight, then you go and you serve, because I am a man that believes in country above self, so I am always ready to serve. So as I say, it was frightening at first, but as long as I get the work done, then I am good, and I'm pretty sure that the government will be okay with that.
What helped you to overcome the initial nerves?
That's a good question. I would think family. I know it was my family, and my mother, for one. She is she's quite the character, but I was very much surprised when she herself said that go and serve, and it was about nation building, so I was very much inclined to do so.
When you stepped off into your career in the music industry, do you see yourself representing St. Kitts and Nevis in such a capacity?
I did not. I did not, honestly. But, as I say, as long as there's a call to serve, I am going to do so. As I said, I did sports before, which would be track and field and football, so I was always in service for country. So it was even though there was a lot of butterflies because, there's politics behind a lot of things, I said, well, I am just going to jump in the arena and make sure that what we have as a vision comes into fruition.
What is that vision?
And that vision is to make sure that the government understands entertainment and the way forward with entertainment.
So you mentioned that you were also a sports star and you would represented St. Kitts and Nevis overseas as well. So it wasn't anything that was unfamiliar to you to go and represent St. Kitts and Nevis overseas. Now you said that there are three things that you were involved with, and we can probably start with the trip that you mentioned in terms of a musical trip. Tell us a bit about that. When was it? What was involved?
It was last year, June. The dates I really can't bring back right now, but it was in June, and we went to Jamaica to meet 3 music producers and network with some, what's the word I'm looking for? Networked with some record labels, sorry. And we executed it in 1.5, maybe you could say 2 weeks. So I went with Dijua, who is one of the nation's youngest and most talented artists, and I also went with IMAC. And the project lead was Alicia Watley. And Chukapo was also on the trip as well as the videographer. Yeah, so that is what we mainly went to do. We went to record songs and network.
Why Jamaica?
Because Jamaica is the mecca of basically dancehall music, our type of music, dancehall, reggae, that type of vibe. And I wouldn't consider them to be the gatekeepers, but they are the source. There's everything there, and they have a readily available industry that was set back in time. So it is very easy to go through them to get to where you want to go.
Okay. And so the objectives of the trip were to
network, record, music videos, and songs. And after that, then, because the government is not a record label, the two artists and their management team would have material then to do their work after that.
Network. How has that built out since then?
The networking for them, well, the networking for them, honestly, they would have to tell you about that. They would have to tell you about that, them and their management team.
Okay. So what would you say were some of the outcomes of the project now?
Sorry, not to cut you. This jour just released an album called Epiphany. And one of the songs that he did in Jamaica is on the album. So yeah, that is the direction, to make sure that they have material, so then when they create whatever work of art, then they present it to wherever they want to present it. But that is not our responsibility.
Okay, so that actually links to the question that I was going to ask in terms of, or that I started to ask in terms of the outcomes of the project, outcomes of the trip. So you're saying that Dijon was able to use some of the footage that he would have captured up there and include it in an album here.
Right, so that is the end game for the government. We facilitate, and then after that, you as an individual with your team have to do your part to make sure that your work gets out there.
I want to go back to the persons who you mentioned would have participated in this trip along with yourself, and they would be, as you mentioned, Alicia Watley, and perhaps you can tell us a bit more about who the persons are and where they fit into the entire vision that you and the government has. Alicia Watley, she was listed as the project advocate and the manager and creative director.
Right. Well, she's everything, you know, to be honest with you. There's not much words that you could put to her, because she's everything. She is the one who kept the ball rolling, you know. So she dealt with the networking, she dealt with the creative components, she dealt with the studio, she also dealt with the logistics of the trip as well. So she was basically everything to me as a project lead. And she's also the manager of IMAC.
Okay. And so Mr. Nigel Chukapo, as most persons would know him as.
Well, Mr. Nigel Chukapo is, well, you know, his work speaks for itself, if you know him from long time. He was the very first person to even record a video for me in 2009. You know, so his work speaks for itself.
So his participation in it, was it to capture what was happening?
To capture, yes. So he made a small video, a small movie, actually, to capture the whole thing, and it was well done.
Where's that movie? Is it online?
It is online, where you could find it on InFocus Music, on my page, on InFocus Music, and but it is only there, because I wanted to keep it in-house.
But wouldn't it have been a good idea to have, because of course, persons, the idea is to inspire persons so that they can help to develop themselves, to post it on social media. Most persons.
But it is on social media as well, huh? So it's on my Kervin Benjamin page.
Right.
The only place it's not is SKNIS.
Well,
so I would have to get that to you.
I'm sure that's something that can be arranged. Right. Okay. So after we mentioned, you mentioned Dijon and IMAC. How was it chosen? Why were they chosen to participate?
They were chosen to participate because at the time, those two were like, well, to be very honest, again, they were the main acts in the entertainment scene here in St. Kitts. Dijon and IMAC, you know, so it was very fitting to at least reward them for the work that they've done for the last 5 years. You know, if the budget was a bit bigger, then, you know, I would have fit in more people, but you know how that goes.
We're in a new budget cycle. Do we expect to see similar engagements moving forward?
You should expect to see the similar engagement. The only thing I added this year was the concert, but everything else is going to be running.
Okay. So any idea when we will see something like that again?
In June.
This year?
This year.
Overseas?
Overseas, yeah. That's the ambassadorial trip.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So music festival is around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So is there persons already selected for that? Or?
Not as yet. So we're still in the preliminary talks about it, because we're going to restructure it as well. You know, last year was a pilot. It was a pilot one, really. So we're going to restructure it a bit, and well, I can't tell you about about that, but we're going to restructure it a bit and make sure that we don't have the same hiccups from last year.
What were some of those hiccups? You opened the doors. So what were some of the challenges that you experienced?
Some of the challenges that were experienced, I would prefer not to speak on them, if that is okay.
Nothing at all to share.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So the restructuring will help to address some of those things. So then I guess more information will be released in terms of...
Most definitely.
When and is there a part of a criteria? Is there that is going to be used for the person?
That is a part of what... that is a part of the restructuring. So we would have a criteria, because last year was more off the fly. You know, it was more... As I say, off the fly. So this year is more restructuring in terms of getting a proper criteria in place so that we could, you know and see and seek out talents that we should assist. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And is it the possibility of just persons selecting them in terms of from the ministry that they believe that the investment is worth it here, or upon persons apply? Of course, there may be some persons so that...
So there's one somebody from the creative economy that we are going to implement, and another one from the Prime Minister's office that we are going to put in place, and then obviously my team.
Right, so they'll be assisting with the selection as
right.
well. So, okay, all right.
So that it doesn't look biased.
Yes, yes, very important as well too, in terms of persons must understand that they, everyone deserves a fair chance.
Right.
And you mentioned I was only 2 persons, so do we expect to see a larger numbers, or is it going to be the same?
It's going to be the same. That is what I'm waiting. I could confirm that it's going to be the same.
Okay. And Ms. Watley is still involved in the project?
Ms. Watley is still involved.
Right.
She's the project lead, and Chukapo will still be involved.
Okay. All right. Now, you've also mentioned a National Cultural Music Workshop. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the National Cultural Musical Workshop is something that we are going to take around the island. It's going to start this month, actually. And we have a proposed date, but I can't release it as yet. But it is something that we are going to take around the island. And what I can say for now, it is about vocalists, musicians, and artists. So they will be working, and obviously they're going to have mentors. So they will be working with musicians, they're going to be working with vocal coaches, they're going to be working with artists, and they're going to be working with an entertainment lawyer, because that's the business side. So those 4 components are what we are going for.
So the objective of this workshop?
The objective of the workshop is to prepare our young people for the entertainment, and not just on the stage. So we're preparing them for the business as well, so that they don't go through what most of us went through. And you would know. They need to learn the business. So it is not just going into a booth and coming back out, and that's just about it. I want you to understand that, and I want you to understand your worth, right, first of all, and you understand the business, so that you don't get fooled, in layman terms, because it happens quite a lot. Yeah, so the objective actually is to prepare our young people for the business. Because talent is one thing, but if you don't know the business, then you're going to just end up with nothing.
Right, and of course I would have been familiar with a few stories in the past of persons who have been promised, as we would say, maybe pie in the sky dreams,
Right.
especially by some persons from overseas.
Right.
I don't know if I should necessarily call the name, but the minister himself, the Honorable Samal Duggins, would have had some bad experiences in the past as well too. And so I suppose that helps to have that personal experience where you are
Right.
able to understand and to relate to what the challenges are and try to address them accordingly.
Right. So, and well, luckily, Minister Duggins and myself had some bad run-ins, so we now can address that for the youths of today. So it eventually worked out itself.
How long will these workshops last?
6 months. So you're only going to be on the workshop for 6 months, and then you graduate, and then we have another set. So it's every 6 months.
Different cohorts.
Right.
Will they be run simultaneously? Because you mentioned it's going to be taken around the country. So is it going to focus on a community for the first?
Yes, so
months,
it's
or?
going to be community-based, and but they're not going to be run simultaneously. So we're going to concentrate on one,
community.
and then we move on.
So artists from one community will be
Right.
engaged there.
Right.
Capacity, how large?
We are thinking at least, well, it sounds like a small number, but 5. Right? Because we don't necessarily want to have too much people on the program and can't deal with everybody at the same time. So we're going with 5 per community.
Who selects the, well, you mentioned.
Well, as I said, we have a selection committee.
Right, okay. So persons are already identified?
Not as yet. Not as yet. So this next week coming is when we are going to fully roll out what the plan is. And yeah, I don't want to say too much, but you're a very good interviewer, but you're getting me to talk.
Is there anything in particular that you're looking for in these artists?
Not necessarily. I personally just want artists to be creative. I want them to be themselves. You know, as long as they're not disrespectful, then I am okay with you just being you and free. We are creatives, so I don't want to overcomplicate it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want anybody to hold me back from being me. You know, that is why I am who I am today. Because I decided to be myself.
Right, and creatives, of course, they think differently.
Right. And I don't want to have them in a space where they can't find to anything. Because then your creative juices ain't going to flow. Yeah, so, well, I am taking a different approach. Instead of it being like you in a classroom, we are going to do a lot of outside stuff, you know, even under a tree, right? Because I wrote my first song under a tree. So it's like you want them to be creative. You know, you put them in a creative space as opposed to in a classroom. Yeah.
Give us a sense, if you can, of some of the aspects that will be covered. I know you mentioned that there will be a business lawyer that will be engaged there, but specifically, what type of courses will be covered?
The courses that would be covered, as you know, copyright, for one, and, well, the copyright, the movement artists in terms of where you can and cannot go and what you need when you go.
You're speaking about overseas?
Overseas now.
Okay.
Right? So you need to know that you have to have a work visa to go certain places and then that type of stuff. Right? So it's about the do's and the don'ts. So there's a lot of covering the do's and the don'ts in the entertainment field.
So they have to be at a certain level then, that's what you're saying, that they should be able to have material there already, that it's not basically helping them to branch out, so to speak, in terms of starting off from scratch, but that they should already have a level of competency. That's what I'm hearing from
Right, that is what we're going for.
Right, okay. And what is the expected impact? And probably I should ask before I get there,
The expected
which
impact.
community?
Where we starting?
Yes.
I can't tell you that as yet. What I will do, if time permits, if you need me back here, I will come back and give you the full rundown after we meet and we conclude. Then I could tell you everything.
Okay. Expected outcomes.
Right. Expected outcomes. I personally just want at least one hit song out of one of them. That's it.
Out of the first cohort?
Well, out of any cohort. I just need to make sure that there is somebody that going to break out from our workshop. You know, because, I mean, even though it is not as easy as it sounds, we are going to create an environment for them so that they could excel, right? And as a coach, as a teacher, you would want at the end of the thing for anybody to pass, and one hit song is good for me.
The question will be, how do you define hit? What is a hit in your mind in terms of what you're aiming for?
That's a good question. That's a good question. A world beater. Something that transcends. Something that will last forever. That's a hit song.
Something that would last and resonate in the regions, resonate overseas.
In the region, overseas, the world.
Something like a Taliban. Well, the song that...
Yeah, I was going to sing it in the bus. So let me leave it. Yeah.
Well, copyright, of course. You have to look at that. Okay. Target range, is there a target age range that you're looking at?
Right. For now, we are thinking 15 to 20. You know, we're not going for the more established ones. We're going for the ones that we can, you know, that literally help to learn the business. Because the more you would expect the more established ones to already understand, right? Not that all of them does understand, but we are going from 15 to 20. That is where we're targeting.
So that would suggest that the engagements would come on a weekend or maybe after hours, because of course persons who are 15 are still in school.
Right. But early after hours, we're talking about from 5 to 6. Right. From 4 to 6, 5 to 6.
Okay. And after they finish the first 6 months, and I guess they would graduate from...
They will graduate from the program, yeah.
Any follow-up that will be done by the ministry?
There should be a follow-up from the ministry, yeah.
But I guess you will spell that out a bit later
Yes.
as you continue to fine-tune the program. Okay. All right. So there's the Elevate concert that you mentioned as well, too. And that would have been held on May 6th. Before we get into that, sir, we're going to take our final break.
Okay.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more In Focus.
If you haven't done it as yet, please do it today. Subscribe to our YouTube page at SKNIS Media for regular updates, live coverage, and even more information on your government. While you're at it, like, share, and interact with our Facebook and Instagram pages at SKNIS Media and SKNIS Info.
Welcome back to the final set of In Focus. We're having our conversation with His Excellency Kervin Benjamin, who is a musical ambassador, one of two, who is attached to the Ministry of Creative Economy and Sports. Right, Elevate concert. Now, of course, we would have seen that happen on May 6th. And your description, the description of your role, I think, was lead coordinator. You spearheaded the event. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the event came about because obviously, you know, I love music. I love stage shows. That is what I've been doing for the past 13 years. And I proposed the concert because well, you know, I wanted to give entertainers an opportunity to express themselves. And that was just about it. As I said, much things that I do ain't rocket science. We are all in the business for years, and as long as I have an opportunity to stimulate the economy as well, while giving people a stage to express themselves, that is what I'm going to do.
So the performers weren't from the Elevate program?
The performers were not from the Elevate program. They were local entertainers. You could say homegrown entertainers.
Why the use of the term Elevate? Because it was branded Elevate.
The use of the term Elevate, well, Elevate is who sponsored the concert. The Elevate program sponsored the concert. So they had workers from the Elevate program on the scene doing other things, but not performing.
Because the Elevate program is designed to equip persons with the skills, so much like your objective is so that they could understand business and
right. So they were there doing other things.
So there was the persons who doing support in the background.
Right, but not on the stage.
Okay.
Yeah. So because I don't know if any artist is in Elevate program, but they are very versed in other things. So they were on the ground. So they were helping out around and in the arena, but just not on the stage.
Right. So that the experience that they would have gained from that concert then, because of course as we established, I think it's an InFocus is developing the orange economy. You're an important part of that. The experience that they would have gained doing that, that certainly would be useful in moving forward. Of course, music festival is coming up. I think there is a community festival in Keyon.
In Keyon, the Green Valley.
Coming up as well. So the experience would be helpful. They talk to us a bit about that.
Right. So the experience that they garner from just being around, you know, there's a building of the stage and the logistics and all of that. So they take that, and you could honestly take that around the island, because logistics is a very big part of any entertainment scene. You're talking about sound system, tent, the stage itself, the torch, fencing. So there's a lot of different things that you can do in and around a stage show. So they take that around the island. And the Green Valley is coming up. You know, that is my place. So you could just move them around. You know, you keep them busy.
That's something that you would commit to in terms of your responsibility as a musical ambassador, where you would help to work with the Elevate program to ensure that those skills are continued to develop by the persons who can support in those areas and can be deployed where necessary.
Yeah, but when called to serve, right, I just want to make mention of this. When called to serve, we work interministerially, right? So there's no ministry that I wouldn't go into and try to help as long as the youths are involved. Right, so that is something that I think that we have been doing a great job at. So that's something that, as I say, we take them from different places and we put them in different places so that they could learn.
And how would you rate the engagement that you've had so far in terms of the interministerial cooperation?
The interministerial cooperation has been tremendous, to be very honest. I have worked with but I don't necessarily have to mention names, but it has been decent.
Probably just share the names of the ministries as opposed to the persons that you're
there's been, what's the name? Agriculture, but finance, of course, national security, well, obviously creative economy, sports, there's the ministry, well, the Honorable Jael Clark, you know,
that's sustainable development.
Yeah, she has a lot of different ones. Right. Yeah, so she has been very instrumental as well, you know, and those are the ministries that I've worked with.
Okay. So how would you say the engagement went off?
The engagement went off decent, yeah. Nice and easy. I had no problems with any of the ministries. They have always been willing to work and willing to help. So I have no problems whatsoever.
Mr. Benjamin, of course, St. Kitts and Nevis, much like other countries in the Caribbean, has seen issues in terms of gun-related violence. And music is something that often gets linked to gun-related violence in terms of the artist's lyrics. Of course, persons who are following the music festival, of course, several years ago, there was an arrest, someone who these lyrics did not come up to the standard of what is expected here in St. Kitts and Nevis. There are some persons who would promote violence in their songs. Of course, we are aware that recently an artist was banned from coming to St. Kitts and Nevis because of his lyrics, and that is something that I think another island also has followed suit in. Talk to us about the importance of music and having that positive message, because of course InFocus is seen by persons as a positive performer.
Right, and that is a ticklish situation. Not a hard question, but I believe in creatives. Well, let me just say this first. I believe in creatives being creative, right? But I also believe that we owe a responsibility, an obligation to the public to make sure that we keep certain things clean, you know. So I don't necessarily like to lament on that, because, as I say, I allow creatives to be creative, but as long as they keep it in the music. But unfortunately, we are influencers, so depending on the type of music that you sing, you're going to be influencing the wrong crowd, you know. So is a give and take type of situation, and I try to not talk about it, because I love music. I love music. I wholesomely love music, you know. No matter the type of music, as long as it's creative enough, I love it. But it's just that we as entertainers, as I say, we are on obligation to the federation and the world to make sure that we try to keep it as clean as possible.
Will that be a factor that would be considered in the type of engagements that would be taking place with local artists? Because, of course, and the police issued a statement about it. There's a particular incident where someone may have brandished a weapon, and the police indicated that such would not be tolerated. Of course, St. Kitts and Nevis, the government would have announced an amnesty period, a 15-day gun amnesty period for the next 15 days. And so those are the kind of issues that one faces when it comes to music industry, the entertainment industry. Of course, there's also drugs as well too, illegal drugs. And so, you know, as you said, the wrong crowd, but it's not necessarily it's the wrong crowd. You have to be concerned about the impressionable minds.
Well, as I said before, I allow creatives to be creative, but I am 100% behind law enforcement and the government when it comes to them cracking down on those type of stuff. I cannot go around it, and I will not go around it. I have to be a model citizen right now and say that it is not acceptable, to be very honest.
Right. Okay. Now, the question that I asked, will that influence the type of persons who are engaged by the ministry?
If that would influence the type of...
The artists.
Again, that's a good question. If it would influence them.
Because you mentioned, of course, that you would have switched from secular music to reggae, something that is a bit more conscious, something that can speak well in terms of the positive vibes, as persons mentioned as well too, right? So I would imagine that, of course, you would want to ensure that persons who have that positive message will be built up.
Well, I guess it depends on who is dealing with the artist. I guess it depends on who is dealing with the artist.
Okay. Also, now, we touched on it earlier in terms of copyright. Of course, that is something that you mentioned is very important. And we saw in Parliament last week that the government would have strengthened the copyright protection for locals here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Were you aware of this? Did you?
Yeah, I was aware of that.
Tell us a bit about it.
Well, the strengthening of it is basically to, as I said, you know, copyright and copywritten stuff is very important. You know, intellectual property, it is yours. So you have to protect it, right? So, as I say, anybody need any information, they go to the office and they would get all the information that they need to pursue their copyrights for their intellectual property.
Do you get royalties?
I get royalties, yeah.
And the system that you went through. Talk to us, walk us through, just very briefly, because...
Well, it's a very simple system. You sign up with the company, and that's just about it. As I say, entertainment is not rocket science, to be honest with you. You go to the site, they send you an application, you register your songs, and that's just about it. It is that simple, you know? It is that simple, but when people hear about it, it's almost as if there's this disconnect where people think that they would have to go through so many things before they get a song registered. It is not that hard.
And the discussion that I had last week, one of the questions that I posed to the registrar, Ms. Gian Williams-Knight, was the use of AI to create content. Now, you spoke about allowing people to be creative, that you love the creative mind, but the AI is not a creative mind.
Yeah, that's a tough one too. But it is here. It is here, and even though not for it, it is already here. I have no idea what we can do about it. So I would encourage anybody to just continue to stay creating. That's the only way we could we'll continue creating with your individual self, you know, and not go down that road, to be honest with you, because that is just not yours. It's not you, you know. So that is how I feel about that.
Okay. Anything else that you would like to highlight that you may not have mentioned here?
I think we covered most things. As I said, the National Musical Workshop is going to be coming off this month. The ambassadorial trip will be coming off again. The concert just left. And anything else that we are planning, you are going to know about. You just have to stay up to date with SKNIS and also go to all the pages that the government has so that you could know and be in the know.
Any advice that you would have for young persons who are interested in getting into the entertainment industry? And it's more than just music now.
The creatives, I realize that the creative economy is very vast. But the advice that I would have for anybody is to just stay consistent, stay humble, and work hard. That's it.
Okay. And talk to us a bit about the National Creative Center that, of course, the government is looking to build, the cultural center.
Yeah,
Excuse me. Yes, talk to us a bit how you see this transforming.
I see it transforming not just the federation, but maybe the region. You know, because I haven't seen anything like it, to be honest, and I'm well traveled. I haven't seen anything like it. So I believe that the impact that will have will be tremendous, and we also can have it as a destination site. So I see it being something also for tourism. Yeah, so I think the impact will be tremendous.
You're lending your voice there in terms of the look of it. Well, not the look.
Well, no, you know, I'm not.
Of course, but in terms of
I'm not an architect.
The way that it's going to be used.
No, but I trust who they have put in place to deal with it. I just can't wait to use it.
Not the construction itself, but I'm speaking about in terms of the facilities that will be included in there. Because, of course, you know, studios, very important. That
a studio is very important, yes. Right. So, that is the only place I am going to come in. So, as we move forward and as it comes into fruition, then I would have my input on that. But for now, no, I don't necessarily have an input.
Okay. All right. Kervin, infamous Benjamin, musical ambassador in St. Kitts and Nevis to the Ministry of Creative Economy and Sports. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure being here.
Right. I would like to thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us for this edition of InFocus. We trust that you will join us next week at the same place at the same time. For now, I'm Ian Richards.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.